programs to ensure that diverse small businesses and their employees remain at the heart of San Francisco's cultural and economic well-being. Small businesses make up 9 out of 10 San Francisco businesses, employ more than half of our city's workforce, and generate tens of billions in economic activity each year. Small business owners and their employees have been among the worst impacted by the pandemic, as we all know. Now, there's so much more work that needs to be done, but I do hope that you've seen through our work together throughout the pandemic and beyond that the city is here to serve and support you. Small businesses have benefited from more than $63 million in grants and loans, over 3,000 small businesses benefiting from that, including their employees, in addition to tens of millions of dollars in tax and fee deferrals, assistance in advocating and applying for state and federal funding, and assistance in deferring approximately $46 million in business registration fees for 100,000 businesses, deferred business taxes for 20,000 businesses, and giving 19,000 businesses additional time to pay roughly $16 million in fees. So in my role as Assessor-Recorder, I just want to express my deep appreciation and support for you, small business entrepreneurs. Small businesses are and have been an essential focus of our recovery, and I want you to know that you can count on San Francisco to be a resource at every step of your journey as small business owners. I'm just going to go through a few slides with my colleague, Martha Yanez. Who is from the Office of Small Business, an extraordinary advocate, as many of you know, to guide you on the pathway to starting your small business. So before we get to that, I want to provide some information from about the business personal property tax, communication that you may get from our office, and important property tax dates to keep in mind throughout the year so you're not surprised. So let's get started. Next slide, please. So just a bit of general information on the roles and responsibilities of my office I'll go over. Then I'll dive right into the business personal property tax overview, including some of the frequently asked questions that we receive and also how to apply those to your business. I know that the information can be overwhelming. There's a density of it, but overall, what I want you to take away is that you are aware that these might be impacting you as a business owner, and that you know that there is an Assessor-Recorder in an office who can be responsive to you to answer any of your questions. So when it comes to those, to the bill itself, those questions can be answered by our colleagues at the Treasurer and Tax Collector's Office. Next slide, please. So just a general overview. Our office primary responsibility is really broken down into 3 main activities. I have a staff of 174 people, public servants who assess property values, all real property in the city and county of San Francisco. We also collect transfer tax, and we are responsible for advancing the single most stable and secure source of revenue of general fund dollars that pay for your most fundamental services, from parks to roads, other areas of infrastructure, emergency services, schools, clean air, and Bay Area Rapid Transit, BART. We also grant property tax exemptions, as well as record public documents like marriage certificates. Next slide, please. So just by the numbers, we on the assessor side look at about 211,000 real estate parcels, the land, the improvements or buildings on top of them, and about 37,000 business personal property accounts that make up what we call the assessment roll. All of that property has value, and that's what we assess annually. And then we apply exclusions and exemptions that are required by state law. So there's about $328 billion of value in San Francisco, and that means about $3.7 billion in annual property tax revenues for fundamental services that I just mentioned. In addition to fairly assessing those properties, we also apply all of the exemptions. There's about $20 billion of exemptions that are applied. That equals about $230 million in property tax savings for homeowners, for churches, schools, museums, affordable housing projects, charitable organizations, and disabled veterans. So every July, we mail out our notice of assessed values, which includes those exemption values. So if you are a homeowner, please make sure you review that when you receive it to make sure the information is correct. And if you think that it's not, reach out immediately to our office. Next, on the recorder side, as I mentioned, we're responsible for recording over 200 types of documents, about 150,000 a year. Those include things like deeds of trust, lien-related documents, mortgages, public documents like marriage certificates that I mentioned, which is the most, I think, accessible to everyone. And then the department records that we have, we also collect those transfer taxes on this side of the house and fees on the recorded documents that we process. We collected about $345 million in transfer tax in fiscal year 20 and 2021, which was an increase better than projections had anticipated. For example, very large transactions were taking place in the city, such as what you may have read about in the paper, the Dropbox sale that took place. That large transaction meant quite a bit in transfer tax dollars for the city and county. In that case, about $65 million. So still in the midst of the pandemic and economic impacts, there are still transactions taking place that have an impact on how we can better service San Francisco because of the dollars that we collect. So we interact with businesses in a variety of ways. And most importantly, what does it mean for you? So as a new registered business, one of the first pieces of communication that you're going to receive from the city is a notice from my office to file the business property statement. The business property statement, Form 571L. The office then of the treasurer and tax collector will share your business registration information with our office. And then after receiving your business registration information from them, we'll generate an account for you, an account number and a PIN, and mail you a notice of requirement to file that form that I just mentioned. You'll normally receive that in February so that you can declare all of your assessable business property that's situated in the county, which you owned, claimed, possessed, controlled, or managed as of the tax lien date. Next slide, please. So business personal property. What is it? It's all the property owned or leased by a business with the exception of real property. So the business personal property division of the office assesses property owned by businesses and conducts audits that are mandated by the state. So businesses in the city are required by California state law to annually file these business property statements, which identifies the acquisition cost of your business personal property and the improvements, leasehold improvements, tenant improvements, trade fixtures, et cetera. To us in the assessor's office, and are responsible ultimately for the taxes on that property. As I mentioned earlier, there's about $228 million in revenue for the city that we collected just last year. So what are the common types of BPP? I've mentioned some of them. Next slide, please. Machinery, washing machine, stove, refrigerator, your office furniture, desk, tables, chairs. Equipment, meaning telephones, computers, supplies like stationery, some cleaning supplies, fixtures, plumbing, and wiring. So there's a lot to document and a lot to keep track of as part of this process. Next slide, please. So here are some common types of property that are not considered business personal property and don't have to be reported. And I know this is a lot coming at you, but it's just to give you a sense of what to be on the lookout for once you receive that notice to file. So some of those items that are not included include business inventory, so clothing or food that you intend to sell. Intangible assets, what are those? Like application software, patents, liquor licenses. Home furnishing, if you use your home as your workplace, the portion of your home that is not used in connection with your business is not considered BPP. So very specific parameters there as well. And then DMV licensed vehicles, a delivery truck, company car, or a food truck, interestingly. Next slide, please. So how is the business personal property BPP bill calculated? It's fairly straightforward. It's using the information that you report on your statement. We determine the assessed value, and then we multiply it by the current fiscal year's tax rate. So for example, if your business personal property assessed value is $150,000, we multiply that amount by, in this case, 1.1825%, which is the rate for the lien year of 2022. And the tax bill for this scenario would then be about $2,737.50. So pretty straightforward once everything is added up. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of questions that come up as a small business owner. And again, I know this is a lot, but let's go over maybe 4 frequently asked questions that we have. All the equipment I use in my business, well, it was just given to me. How do I report that? Well, on your BPP statement, you provide a description that includes the make, the model, and the general condition of each piece of equipment. And that helps us determine the value there. Who is required to file the form 571L? Well, when you receive a notice of requirement to file from us, from the Office of the Assessor-Recorder, or when you have taxable business personal property with a total cost of $100,000 or more. So just a couple of things to look out. They will be sending you something when that determination has been made, but also be aware that when you have that property that's with a total cost more than $100,000, give or take, and you recognize that, you should be expecting that you will be required to file. Next slide, please. So another question is, I've just established my business. I don't own much business personal property. It's probably less than $100,000. Do I need to file? Well, the answer there is yes. Because your business is newly established, you'll need to do a first-time filing. So businesses with less than $4,000 in business property value, you're going to receive a low value exemption notice. Low value exempt account holders are generally sole proprietors with very few business assets. So again, I know there's a lot of layers here, but just want to share some of the highest ones with you. What if I disagree with the assessed value notice that I've received? Contact us. Contact us. Please always, if you have any questions, reach out to our office. An audit appraiser is available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's an email that we'll put in the chat, which is askbpp@sfgov.org. That's askbpp@sfgov.org. Or you can call us 554-5531. We'll also put that in the chat for you. And then also, if you just are walking down the street and you suddenly have a question that you don't have a pen and paper, where you want to write it down, you want to reach someone quickly, what was that number, what was that email, just call 311 and say you have a question about this and ask them to be connected, for you to be connected with our office. You also have a more formal right to appeal the assessment with the Assessment Appeals Board. Now, one important thing to note is that not agreeing does not exempt you from paying your property taxes due because the assessment of your property is deemed valid by law until its change is made by the assessor or by the Assessment Appeals Board. Some of you may have had that experience, maybe filing personal taxes with the IRS, had a disagreement, maybe something went wrong with the paperwork. Whoops, you're still on the hook for not only that base amount, but also the penalties and interest that accrue until you take care of that ultimate bill as you work through the process. So just please be sure that you're proactive about this so that you don't have to worry about those issues in the future. But always remember, you are not exempt from paying your property taxes, even if you disagree. Once the resolution has been met, then there will be a refund provided to you. Next slide, please. So you've heard me talk about some of the dates in here. Here are some of the important ones. The lien date that I mentioned of when we look at the value of your property is as of that lien date on an annual basis, January 1st, the first date of the year, or the date of valuation of the property. For February, the business personal property notices are sent to business owners. April 1st, deadline to file that form that I mentioned. Again, April 1st, so that's something that's passed for folks, but please be aware of that. May 7th is the last day that you may file without penalty. So that's coming up very quickly. So if you are required to file, you have questions about filing, reach out right now to make sure that you meet your deadline so that you are not penalized for a late filing. And then in July, the treasurer and tax collector will send you that tax bill. And the 2nd of July is the first day that you can file an appeal. Your deadlines, August 31st is a deadline to pay the bill to the treasurer and tax collector. And then September 15th is a deadline to file an assessment appeal. So a lot of dates, just good to keep them in mind, but always remember, please be proactive. You are on the hook for those property taxes, even if you disagree. So please do make sure that you take care of those up front as you are able, so that you are not penalized in the future as you work through the process of appeal. Next slide, please. So there's also an e-file access tool. One of the things we're doing in the office is updating our systems, very old systems. And it's a constant process to make it easier for you. There's still a lot of work left to be done in this area, but I'm very grateful to my predecessor, Carmen Chu, for what she started. So we offer a convenient way for business owners to file their business property statement. So you can go to our website, sfassessor.org, use our e-file portal to submit your statement, and then please refer to your annual notice for your account property numbers and access PIN that'll make it easier in your e-filing process. So again, on that notice that you receive, your account and property numbers and your access PIN, so that you have that ease when you go to e-file. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, very friendly staff. They're ready to assist you. You can visit us in person at City Hall, room 190. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. If there's no line, you can walk right up to the counter. If there is, you just go to the kiosk, push a number, and your number will be called in the order that you came in. You can always speak to a specialist by phone. You can call us again at that number, 554-5531. If you forget, 311. And you can email us as well, askbpp@sfgov.org. Our website also includes so much information, so many frequently asked questions. I do recommend you take some time to go over that in relationship to your very specific questions, whether you are a homeowner, whether you are specifically focused on business, personal property. Take advantage on the resource guides that we put up. Not every county does that, but we do in San Francisco. Next slide, please. So I just want to say thank you. There's an example of property tax for business owners, our information sheets. I hope this demystified just a touch the business personal property tax and the role that my office plays in that. Again, you have our contact info in the link, in the chat section here, with a link to our BPP fact sheet that you see here in the chat, so you can have that for your records more easily. And that concludes my presentation. I'm very, very happy to pass over the microphone to the one and only Martha Yanez, who is an extraordinary advocate for small businesses here in the city and county. Not only pre-pandemic, but like all of us, survived the pandemic by providing so much time, equity, and effort in making sure the small business communities were served. Martha, thank you so much for your service. We're lucky to have you.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Hello, everyone. So I wanted to ask, do you want to take some questions now? Because I don't know if you're planning to stay on the rest of the presentation or not. It's up to you. I saw there was a couple in the chat for your part of the presentation. You're muted. No? If not, I can go forward. So yeah, I don't know. Christy, do you think we want to take some questions now from Assessor?
It's up to you. Maybe we should just...
yeah. Oh. We can unmute him. Just don't want him hanging around for my presentation if he doesn't have to. He probably has other things to do. Or we can always follow up with folks. Who can unmute him? Christy, anybody?
I'm looking for his.
Oh, we'd have to find him. Yeah, there's a lot of people on this. So maybe we'll just,
Oh, here he is. Okay.
oh, thank you everybody for your patience.
Okay, great. I'm unmuted. Thank you so much. Thanks, Martha. One of the questions was, why don't we scrap business personal property tax? That's a conversation for the state of California, but billionaires with property are taxed. So there are a lot of properties that are here in the city and county of San Francisco that are taxed. We also have programs and partnerships with the Board of Equalization to make sure that some of the LLC work that's done does not go unnoticed. That's an audit program that's already brought in tens of millions of dollars since we began that program. So I take that very seriously, and thank you for the question. But I'm also very grateful for the hundreds of millions of dollars that we receive through business personal property. And it's an exceptional unit run by Tom Swerk and his team. Does it apply to home-based businesses? Yes, it does. So please do reach out to our office so you can understand the intricacies of business personal property, as I mentioned, what is and is not covered as part of the BPP in relationship to your home-based business. Jerry, with regards to your application, will you please reach out to our office directly so we can go through where you are in the process in terms of you receiving a notice for your notice to file? Will this recording be emailed? Yes, it will, Philip. Thank you. All right, I think that's it. Thank you so much, Martha. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. So we'll continue with my part of this presentation. So as you know, the presentation is starting a business in San Francisco. So for starters, my name is Marta Yanez, and I work in this office business. We are inside City Hall as well. Our office is in room 140 within the tax collector's office. And so basically what our office is set up to do is really be a central point for small business information and assistance for people wanting to start a business in San Francisco or existing small businesses that already operate in San Francisco. So we like to consider ourselves the first place that you should come for all questions small business. And we define small business in San Francisco with less than 100 employees. So as Assessor Torres had mentioned, out of 10 of our businesses are businesses by that definition. The majority of our businesses are small here in the city and contribute a lot to our office or to our city. So back when our office was created, we run a small business assistance center at City Hall where you can drop in. Or right now we're open 5 days a week, back open 5 days a week, but we are limited in staff. So you might only encounter one person there. So it's best to make an appointment if you are coming down. Otherwise, we really try to make ourselves really available to you and accessible. So you can always call or email our office, and I'll have my contact info on my presentation that I'll put up in just a little bit. But the idea is that, yeah, if you're a small business, somebody who wants to start a business in San Francisco or an existing business, you have questions, of your filing or you want to one of our business case managers, and we can give you a checklist, which you'll see when I pull up my presentation, kind of what that looks like. Our services are really customized based on kind of what you're doing. Your specific type of business will outline what's going to be required and kind of the steps in the order that you need to do things in. And we always will continue to be there for you as you first start your business, but maybe are growing your business. You have other questions. Maybe later you're looking to hire employees. You might have some follow-up questions with regard to employment laws that you need to know about. Anything small business related. As someone doing business here, keep our information handy. Come on down, visit us, call us, email us, etc. That's kind of our bread and butter. We also do not provide some services ourselves. So one of the things that we like to encourage people to do as they're looking to start a business in the city is hopefully take some entrepreneurship training programs, develop a business plan, We encourage people to take the time to really research the type of business that they're doing and go and get some assistance. So we don't provide that service ourselves in-house, but we do have a great network of organizations here in San Francisco that do provide a lot of that technical assistance and training. A lot of those services are free. So the great thing about San Francisco is a lot of people do complain, it's maybe harder to do business here. It's more expensive to do business here. But at the same time, San Francisco, there is no other city that I know of that provides as many resources to small businesses that want to start up in San Francisco as San Francisco does. We're often getting calls from a lot of other places or people inquiring, do you know if there's a similar office to your office in Oakland or LA or other places? And so that's one thing that I can share with you, that San Francisco does do a really good effort at supporting small businesses that work here. And in fact, back when our office started in 2008, we opened up our assistance center at City Hall. At the time, San Francisco was passing laws that were ultimately going to impact small business owners, one of them being the Healthcare Security Ordinance. So well before the state or the federal government had a mandate to provide healthcare for employees, San Francisco was passing a law employers of 20 or more employees to provide health coverage to their employees. We also have the paid sick leave ordinance. So well before the state passed the the paid sick leave ordinance, San Francisco was passing a law that required businesses to provide paid time off to their employees. And so understanding that San Francisco requests and asks a lot on the back of small businesses, we wanted to have this assistance center where you can come in and get support and assistance from the city as well. So that's a little background about our office. But again, I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation. So this is going to be an overview of kind of general requirements needed to do business in San Francisco. There's going to be some basic requirements of anyone that does business in San Francisco, and then some potential additional requirements based on your specific type of business that you do. So this is my presentation, which again, we will be sharing with everyone who's on this call today. This is my contact information here and our office information on this first slide here. So a little bit about us, a little bit more about us. We are a division of the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, and we are also overseen by a small business commission. The commission is a 7-member body that's appointed by the mayor and the board of supervisors, and they meet regularly at City Hall to review policy and law, legislation that's being introduced by the mayor or the board of supervisors that might ultimately impact small businesses that operate in San Francisco. This small business commission, which is a voluntary group of 7. These are generally small business owners themselves or somehow work with the small business community. They meet regularly to review that policy or law that's being introduced by the board, their mayor, or sometimes departments as well that might ultimately impact small businesses that operate here, and they make recommendations on that policy and law. You can follow their meetings if you visit our website, which again, my contact info is on the front here, including our website, or you can find when they meet, but again, we are located inside City Hall. We like to consider ourselves a central point for small business information. We do provide one-on-one case management assistance. We provide services in English, Spanish, Cantonese, and Mandarin by ourselves. Case managers such as myself and my colleague, and other languages are available using language line interpretation services. And we also manage the San Francisco Business Portal. So some of you might have already visited our business portal. It is an online presence that we have that you can access 24/7 that provides assistance or provides information on doing business and starting a business in San Francisco. So I would also encourage you to visit that. But we are on the back side of that. We answer questions with respect to people that are asking questions on that portal. Additional services offered. Basically, one of the first things that you have to do when you think about starting a business in San Francisco, besides again, developing a business plan and working with someone to help you develop a business plan or taking some business classes, one of the first decisions that you'll have to make is how to set up your business. So you might have heard of sole proprietor versus a general partnership versus a corporation versus an LLC. Those are all different types of business entity structures. And so we do provide a general overview of the various types of business structures, but ultimately it is a conversation that you'll likely want to have with a tax professional and or a business lawyer. But we do provide a general overview, and I'll have an entity comparison table a little bit further in the presentation that we can review real quick. We also provide that checklist, customized checklist of requirements for starting your business here. So again, our services are really customized to particularly what you're doing, kind of at what stage you're at with what you're doing. Maybe, like I said, you'll need to take some classes and work on developing a business plan, or maybe you're coming to, by the time that you come to us, you've already signed your lease and just need to get going. Then we can help you really at whatever stage you're in, but making sure that you are aware of resources that are available that can continue to help you grow your business. We also provide information and assistance with a lot of these filings. So if you do decide on creating an LLC or a corporation, we can guide you in terms of the steps to do that. We also provide information, obviously, with respect to the San Francisco requirements. So anyone doing business in San Francisco will have to have a business registration. And we assist with that filing, as well as answering questions about renewal. Actually, this month, May, is the month that all businesses that are already registered in the city are renewing their registration. The registration renewal needs to happen by the last day of May. And so we also provide information on when it's time to renew. We provide assistance with renewals. We also provide assistance with paying your license fees. So some businesses will also have operational licenses to operate here in the city. And so we also provide assistance with that and making updates to your account. We also provide information on the process to file a fictitious business name, and I'll cover that a little bit more and explain what that is. I know I'm kind of covering a lot right now, but once I show you the checklist, some of them become a little bit more clear, and we can go through them a little bit more in detail. So yeah, basically a fictitious business name is something that is required if you are doing business under a name that's not your legal name. And so we provide assistance with that filing as well with the city. And we also help with figuring out what other permits and licenses are required, and also in some cases helping you file and apply for those additional regulatory license from others, the city, mostly state agencies as well. We also provide assistance with helping you check the zoning and the land use. So anytime somebody's going to be starting a business, it's going to require them to lease commercial property here in the city to run their business. We always encourage you that you never, ever, ever sign a lease before you first consult and check the zoning of that property. A lot of times people do come to us after the fact. They've already signed a lease, and then they come to find out that they need special permits to be able to operate their business in that space. So we want to catch you before that happens, and we want to help you confirm that the zoning permits the use. So we do that. We provide that assistance. We rely also on our colleagues at some of our other city departments to help with some of this as well. But we've gotten pretty good at looking at the zoning control tables and kind of giving you a sense of whether your particular type of business is allowed in that space or not. So we provide that type of a service. We also review accessibility laws and considerations. So again, for those of you who might be looking to lease commercial property to run your business out of, you want to be mindful that there are accessibility laws. So your place generally has to be accessible to people with disabilities. Otherwise, you can run the risk of being sued. And so we provide an overview of some of those laws and important considerations to consider as you're looking at a particular property. Sometimes we'll pull up Google Maps at the property with you and give you some information and assistance. And there's also other organizations or folks who can assist you better assess a specific location. I could talk a little bit more about that. Again, also, we also provide assistance with, if you're wanting to do business with a city, you do have to be registered as a city vendor, supplier. And so we provide some assistance and guidance with that process. Also becoming a local business enterprise. The city has a local business enterprise certification. So if you are based in San Francisco, it's your principal place of business, then you can get certified as a local business. And the city, when they issue contracts, have where they indicate that they'll give a preference to a business who's local. So with that process as well. We provide review of city labor laws and compliance. So like I mentioned earlier, the city's paid sick leave ordinance. We have the minimum wage higher here in San Francisco than the state. We also have the healthcare security ordinance. Some of these apply whether you have one employee, or some others apply once you have 5 or 20 employees. So we provide some guidance with respect to our city labor laws. And then we also do the referral to technical assistance providers. So basically anything that we can't assist you with, such as business planning, business training, business advising, looking at your financials, that sort of stuff, we rely on a network of organizations that we can refer you to, including legal organizations. So if you need someone to help you review a lease or a contract, there are legal organizations as well that you can avail yourself of for free or low cost, and we can provide you a referral and information about those providers that are available. Many of them, like I said, free, available to you. And then we also provide information on city programs and funding options. So as Assessor Torres had mentioned, the city has had a number of programs available during the whole pandemic, grant programs, loan programs, both local, state, and federal. And our office has really been getting the information out about all of those various programs, many who have, come and gone. So right now we only have a couple of grant programs through the city that I'll also mention towards the end. But yeah, one thing that I would encourage you to do is to subscribe to our newsletter. Our newsletter is going to be the best way to stay informed of any new programming that the city will have available. And sometimes we also find out about other state programs. There was a state grant, for example, in pandemic. So yeah, our office has been getting out information about various programs, and there's others, not just during the pandemic, but we have, for instance, a Jobs Now program that's been around for more than 10 years. That program started the last economic downturn. The city was trying to get residents back to work, and so was helping to pay the wages of employees for employers through this Jobs Now program. So that's just another example of city programs that our office informs businesses about. But going forward, this next slide is just a quick overview of kind of the steps on starting a business. So one, work on creating a business plan. We find that people who do take the time to create a business plan and take training are going to be more successful in their business, because they've actually been able to think about their business and plan it out, looking at financials, expenses, etc. So it is a really good exercise, and there's tools that you can access online as well. But there's also the nonprofit partners that we can refer you to that provide some training. For instance, one organization is called Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center. They have a 12-week business planning class that you can sign up for. That's just one example. We have others, and at the end of our slide, we will have a list of resources. You also want to, again, think about your business structure, secure financing, file your articles of organization, if applicable, if you're going that route, obtain an employee identification number, again, if applicable, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. Register your business with San Francisco. So that's one thing. Anybody doing business in San Francisco must be registered with the city. But sometimes if you're not forming an LLC or corporation, you won't need to file your articles. File a fictitious business name, and obtain other permits and licenses if applicable, and comply. Basically, stay compliant. Make sure that you're renewing your registration, you're staying on top of your business property statement, as Assessor Torres had mentioned. So the next slide in my presentation is an entity comparison table. I hope you guys can see this okay. It's a little small, but basically this is just to provide you a visual of the various organization structures that there are to choose from. I mentioned sole proprietor, general partnership, limited partnership, corporation, limited liability company. So rule of thumb here is the less risky your business is and the less you have to lose, the more you might be able to operate as a sole. But if there's more risk in your business and you have personal assets, then you might want to consider a more formal type of business structure, such as a limited liability company or an S corporation. Those are the two more common ones that we see for small businesses who are concerned about risk and liability. This is, again, is a conversation really that you want to have with a tax professional and a business lawyer, because ultimately you can be taxed different. As if you organize a sole proprietorship, you're basically reporting any income from your business on your personal tax. You don't have separate tax filings. However, if you're a corporation or LLC, you may have separate tax filings. So we don't provide that type of guidance through our assistance center, but we can refer you to organizations that you can, where you can get more information. There's also a lot of information online, but this is ultimately one of the first decisions that you're going to make before you start registering your business, because when you begin or want to start registering your business, you'll start to see the applications will ask you, okay, what type of organization are you, who's registered. The way that I like to explain this or to think about this is that a sole proprietor is you, the individual. There is no separation between you and your business if you're a sole proprietor, so you are personally liable. Whereas with the LLC or corporation, you're separating yourself from the business. You're almost creating like a separate entity that's going to exist separate from you. I like to suggest that people think of these almost like another person, and you might have heard of corporations referred to as a person. It is good just to think about it in that way, because I think it makes it easier to going forward to when you're filing forms, etc. So if you're going to form an LLC or corporation, you will need to come up with a name for that entity, and can also have its own tax number. So for individuals, we have our legal name and we have usually our social security number. Or if we cannot get a social security number, some of us might have an individual taxpayer ID number. So the corporation and the LLC is going to have its own legal name. You're going to basically create it, and then you're going to request a tax number for that entity. So again, this entity comparison table just looks at some of the characteristics. The big difference here is that sole proprietors, no state filing required. Corporations and LLCs are required to file with the state. So that's going to be one of your first steps, is to create your entity with the state. So I'm going to go forward here and get to our checklist. And I know I'm going fast. What I'll say is that just follow us directly, one-on-one. Happy to schedule appointments, talk to you by phone on your specific situation, or help answer any questions. And I will leave some time at the end to help answer some questions as well. So this is our checklist that we use if you were to come in or to guide our conversation with you. The first page on the left, I'm going to see if I could zoom in here. To see if you can. Okay, so the first box on the top left, you'll see says zoning. And we put this front and center only because for those of you who are going to be leasing commercial property, we don't want you to miss this step. We want to ensure that you are confirming the zoning before you sign in that lease. But otherwise, the next box, and we can go back to that a little bit, but the next box essentially is where, for those of you who will create a corporation, your first step is going to be here in this box on the left that says Corporation Llc Llp Filing. This is done with the California Secretary of State. There's an online filing that you can do on that website. So the idea with these boxes is that, you know, it's got the agency name and their contact info, their website where you can do a lot of these filings. There's information here on the right of this box that talks about a little bit about the fees that you'll be required to pay. So for those of you forming or organizing a LLC, the initial filing fee is going to be $70. For those of you looking to create a corporation, the initial filing fee will be $100. There's also another form that needs to be filed within 90 days of filing your original articles of organization or articles of incorporation, something called the Statement of Information. That's what this SI stands for. And the Statement of Information for the LLC is $20, $25 for the corporation. And then also the big fee with having a corporation or an LLC is that they must pay an minimum annual $800 tax to the Franchise Tax Board. So this is something that you want to consider. I find oftentimes people come in because maybe their friend or their cousin, somebody told them, oh yeah, you need an LLC, you should operate as an LLC. Maybe that worked for them. It might not be necessary for you. And a lot of times they don't factor in the fact that there is this minimum $800 tax that is due. Usually this $800 is due within the first 4 months of forming your LLC or corporation. Sorry, no, your LLC. Corporations have always had their first year tax waived. More recently, because of the pandemic, Governor Newsom signed a bill that is waiving the first year LLC fee. So somebody who's forming an LLC this month in May, normally their $800 would have been due June, July, August, by August 15th. In this case, that $800 won't be due until April of next year. So that's a good thing. But that is something to consider. And there's just also more formalities with having an LLC and a corporation that you don't have with the sole proprietor. So you will need to, again, file that statement of information. I think it's every other year. So if you're organizing your LLC or corporation this year in 2022, statement of information will be due within the first 90 days, but then also every even year. And so just more maintenance that you'll want to stay on top of. One thing that I will say is that during the pandemic, when businesses were looking for financing and applying for grants and loans, one thing that we've discovered is that a lot of folks, their LLC or their corporation was not in good standing with the state because they had failed to file. And so they unfortunately were not eligible for some of that funding. Or another thing that we encountered is sometimes people, the way that they were registered with the city didn't match the fact that they had created an LLC. So what often happens is if you initially started out as a sole proprietor with the city, you could convert to a more formal type of business structure, such as an LLC or corporation in the future. What you would need to do at that point is, first create your LLC or corporation and then return to San Francisco and close out your sole proprietorship account and then re-register under the LLC or the corporation. And that does happen. So sometimes people know, oh, my tax person suggested, or maybe they even created the LLC or corporation for them, but then they failed to make any changes to their San Francisco. So you definitely always want to be on top of your filings and making sure that they match because that could affect your being able to get loans or grants in the future. So if you're going that route, that would be your first step. Is you have to essentially create your LLC or corporation. You're going to give it a name. We do encourage you to search the name that you come up with your corporation or LLC, and we give you a couple of websites here that you should search for the name. You don't want to file anything the same or too similar, particularly if it's in the same line of business and in the same area. That could be rejected, one, but also you could be infringing on somebody else's name rights and they might end up sending you a letter to cease and desist. So the more that you can stay away from anything too similar, same type of business in the same area, the better. But so that's your first thing, is search for the name, confirm it's available, then go about filing these forms with the state. The state usually will take their processing times vary. They have information on their website about their processing times. And just to show you, let's see if I could switch over to their website. This is the California Secretary of State. And this is where they now have a new online filing system that you would file. If you click here, let's see, actually. If you click here, it'll be search for the name here. And again, this website is on my checklist. You click on this search on the left, and the idea being that you go down here and you type in the name that you're thinking of giving your LLC or corporation, search, and it'll pull up a list, and you'll go through that list and see if there's anything exactly the same or too similar. But that's the idea there. We also recommend you check the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website. This is where people file trademarks. So if you really want legal protection name or mark, you would file a trademark with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. And so you'll go to this website. Again, it's on the checklist, and you'll search trademarks. Same kind of idea. You'll just type it in And I usually just recommend this basic word mark search. That gives you a good indication. You'll click search, it'll populate or not if there's nothing similar. But that's essentially what you want to do when you are searching your name. And that would be your first step, is to file the articles of organization or articles of incorporation. And then the next step in that case would be to obtain a tax ID number for your LLC or corporation from the IRS. So again, like I mentioned earlier, we sole individuals, sole proprietors would have a social security number. These entities, corporations or LLCs will have a what's called an EIN, employer identification number, and they obtain this from the IRS. So this can be done online for free. You go to irs.gov. This is their website here. Best thing for you to do is just go to their main site, irs.gov, and type in EIN in their search field and click enter. And apply for an employer identification number online. You'll click there. It'll give you some information about determining your eligibility, but essentially down here, you'll find another button that says apply online now. You'll click there and it'll take you through an online application. That again, you'll see who's applying. Is it a sole proprietorship? Is it a corporation, or is it LLC? A sole proprietor with no employees does not need an EIN, but we do get oftentimes sole proprietors that might do like business to business, where they're being asked to provide their tax number, and rather than give out your social to many people because you want to try to protect your social, you could obtain an EIN as a sole proprietor that doesn't necessarily need one, but rather for business to business purposes, you might need to provide someone a tax number, like if you're getting paid as a 1099. This happens a lot with like independent contractors. If you're an independent writer and you're working and writing for multiple publications and they're needing to pay you, they will likely want to pay you using EIN and rather than give out your, in that case you could obtain this EIN. It's free to obtain again, and you get it within just a few minutes. So that would be your second step in this case, in this example, if you are going forward with a corporation or LLC. And then once you have those two steps done, then the next step is, if your entity is operating in San Francisco, you will need to register with the city. And this is done with our tax office, which is at City Hall in room 140 as well. So same office that we're in, but we're separate from them. Again, this is required of anyone who does business in San Francisco, and generally our rule is anyone engaged in business in San Francisco any part of 7 or more days in a fiscal year. So the city, we operate on a fiscal calendar. So we're in our 4th quarter. Our new year will begin July 1st. So if you will be operating 7 days, the rest of this fiscal year, you will need to be registered with us. And that's again with the tax office. They also have an online business registration application. It's done in 3 steps. You're gonna go onto their website and complete an application, and you're gonna sign. It's a DocuSign form, and then you're going to pay. The fees vary type of business, the start date, and your estimated gross receipts. So on the, let's see if I can go to their website. Yeah, so this is the Office of the Treasurer Tax Collector website. You're going to click here where it says business, register a business, and the new business registration is here. So again, here there's information about our year again, July 1st through June 30th. Anybody who is registering now will pay a fee for the current year, which is valid through June 30th, and will likely also see a fee for the upcoming year. And so you could pay both fees now and be current until June 30th of 2023, or you could pay the current year fee and you can renew by May 31st of this year for the following year fee. But you will see both fees at this point now if you're registering now. So you'll click on the new business registration, and these are the various parts of the application. In my presentation, I actually have screenshots of all of this, but I think we don't have a lot of time to go through it all. We'll mail you that or email the presentation, and you'll see the screenshots. You can also just go through this without submitting. So feel free to do that. But again, one of your first questions here is sole proprietor, etc. So that's your San Francisco business registration. The one thing that I also wanted to point out here is how much does it cost to register. So again, the fee is based on Estimated gross receipts, there's going to be a question on the application that asks you to estimate your gross receipts. And when it asks this question, it's going to ask it in the form of, they want you to estimate your gross receipts for the current calendar year. So if you are registering now, you would estimate what you expect to gross between now and the end of December. And if it's anywhere between 0 and 100,000, it'll either be $52 or $43 plus a $4 state fee. And the difference between Schedule A and Schedule B is based on business. So there's only 3 business types that fall under Schedule B, and those are retail, wholesale, and something called certain services. Everything else falls under Schedule A. So it would be $52 plus $4 for the current fiscal year. If you get into some of these higher gross receipts and gross between now and December over 100,000, then your fee would be let's say the 86 amount. At this point, because we are in the fourth quarter, that $86 amount will be prorated, and you would pay 25% of the fee. So all of the fees except the minimum amounts are prorated at this point, because we are at the fourth quarter of our year, and that talks about it right here. There's information about that. 25% of the fee except the minimum amount. So you will renew that annually in May. That's your business registration. Also, if you do business under a different name, you would have to file what we call a fictitious business name. And this is done with the county clerk's office of San Francisco. Now, what does that mean exactly? So if I am going to register as a sole proprietor and I'm going to open up, so my registration will be under my name, Marta Yanez, when I register, but I'm going to name my nail salon Fancy Nail or something like that. So I would register at the time of filling out my San Francisco business registration. Actually, I will want to confirm that the name is available. And so if you let me go back to our checklist really quick. If you look here, we have now 3 websites that we recommend that you search for the name, including the county clerk's office website. Let me see. Yeah, so that's this office website, Office of the County Clerk. This is where you will officially file your fictitious business name after you register your business. So you do want to ensure that you are searching for the name and making sure again that it's available. So before, I had suggested that you check with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website, the Secretary of State website, and now I'm also suggesting that you check the county clerk's database of registered businesses or fictitious names. So similarly, there'll be a place here where you can search by name. If it's available, let's say Fancy Nail is available, I would go ahead and register my business first. There's going to be down here called location details, where I would input my business name because I'm comfortable, I've searched and it's available. So I'll register my business first, and then I would be able to file my fictitious business name statement form with the Office of the County Clerk. Once you do the fictitious name statement filing, your name is valid for 5 years, but part of filing a fictitious name requires that you not only file a form with the county clerk's office, but also you have to publish the name in a newspaper. And that is a requirement. So the fee to file with the county clerk's office is $58. That's for one person doing business under one name. Same if you're like a corporation or an LLC. A lot of times LLCs, when you create an LLC, the name of your LLC legally has to have LLC at the end of the name. Actually, let me stop real quick because I know we're already at 2 o'clock and I think this is only scheduled for 2, but can we go over a little bit?
Yes.
Okay, so I will try not to keep you guys too much longer. Like I said, just feel free to follow up because I know this was only scheduled for an hour. But real quickly, so you'll file the fictitious name form and then you'll publish the name. Once you do that, again, the name is valid for 5 years, whereas again, the business registration needs to be renewed every May. The name, as long as there's no changes to the name and no changes to the address on the name, or the address on the name, then you that will be valid for 5 years. Well, one thing that I was saying with respect to LLCs, so LLCs have to have an LLC at the end of it. So it's like Fancy Nail LLC. Let's say that's what I'm going to name my LLC, but my shop name is just going to be Fancy Nail. Then I would still need to file a fictitious business name because at that point, Fancy Nail LLC is now doing business as Fancy Nail. And so the only way to avoid that is I would have to have like LLC on my signage at my shop after fancy nail. So I know it's, again, a lot of information, but going forward, so after you do that, this next box here talks about that sometimes there's additional permits and licenses that are required. This depends on the type of business that you do. Some businesses will have additional what we call regulatory permits and licenses that regulate your actual business activity. So what we do on the back side or this side of the checklist, let me see if I could. So this is our checklist. On the right-hand side, we provide you a list of some local agencies, state and federal, and give you like an idea of the permits that they administer. So for instance, if you are a restaurant or you're going to be opening up a restaurant in San Francisco, besides maybe all of the stuff on the left hand of this checklist or the front side of the checklist, you would additionally need permits from the San Francisco Health Department. They license and give license food establishments essentially. Besides that, if you have outdoor tables and chairs, in that example, I'm opening up a cafe, I'm gonna have, my business is gonna be registered, I'm gonna get health permits from the health department. But if I want outdoor seating, I would also need permits from the Department of Public Works. And in fact, right now we have another program called Shared Space. That's something that came about during the pandemic to try to help a lot of our businesses operate outdoors. So the city provided a free permit for businesses could apply for to operate in the sidewalk or in the parking lane. And so I'm sure you've seen various little things built out on the parking lane. That's a program called Shared Space, and businesses can still apply for that free, I believe, right now in November. The people who have had those permits will need to reapply by November. Some of them will be allowed to continue. There's modifications and make them more accessible, and some of them might need to go away completely. It just depends on safety. And then in that example, again, sticking with my example of the cafe, I would also need a seller's permit. And so this is now under the state column, and it's under the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. So anytime you are selling a tangible item, food included, if you're having a sit-down service, you need a California seller's permit. And this is free from the state. The idea being that you are going to be reporting to the state what your sales have been, usually quarterly, and then you will pay what you've collected in sales tax. So that's why you don't necessarily pay to obtain this permit. It's rather like pay as you go, and you obtain it for free because you're going to become like a tax collector essentially for the state. So that just kind of gives you an idea if you're selling alcohol. In that example, again, cafe, I want to sell beer and wine. I would also need ABC permits from the Alcohol Beverage Control Agency. That's, again, another state agency. So that gives you an idea. But again, it's always best to come in and talk to us. If you're not sure, if you don't clearly see, this is another thing. In San Francisco, we have very innovative people. They're always, coming up with new business ideas that sometimes we're having to research what might be necessary for what you're proposing to do. So not everything is going to be addressed always, but that's another service that our office offers. If you have a particular type of business that you don't see anybody that has that business and you're not sure what's required, definitely reach out and we can do some of that research for you. What we'll end up doing usually is reaching out to some of our city agencies and asking them what might be required, or if they that might fall under their jurisdiction or their code in some way, whatever you're proposing to do. The other thing that I want to talk about, and Assessor Torres did already mention, taxes. So a little bit about our taxes in San Francisco. We have a general business tax that some businesses will pay. A lot of our small businesses will be exempt from our general business taxes. We have a small business exemption that essentially, if you gross less than 2 million, and then you might not have to pay the city's general tax. However, there is the business property tax, which he had talked about. And actually, I just realized that the rate that I have here on my slides is a little higher. So it's gone down for current year. And then we also have some special third-party taxes. These apply to certain businesses. So like if you're a hotel operator or a parking lot operator, you will have this additional tax that you have to collect from your customer, and you're going to be remitting that and reporting and remitting that to the city. Otherwise, a lot of our small businesses will be exempt from the city's general business tax and may only have to pay their annual business registration. And if they have property values over 4,000, they may also have this business property tax that is due to the city. So I think I will stop there, and this is the rest of my presentation. It goes through like these screenshots of how to organize your LLC. I went on their websites a little bit already to give you an idea, but these are all the actual screenshots of the questions that you'll see there. So again, we'll email you all this, the employer identification number, the let's see, business registration. So this talks a little bit more about who needs to be registered in San Francisco. And then it has a fee schedule again. Let's see, what else do I have here? Then the screenshots of the actual business registration application. And what else do I have after this? That's a long one. Oh, I do want to mention there is a program right now, first year free. Again, this is the city's attempt at trying to get businesses to start up in San Francisco again. So if you are a business that's going to be opening up on a ground floor commercial storefront, we're basically trying to get, you know, some of our vacancies filled, our ground floor vacancies. And so if you are a business that's going to be operating on the ground floor, and you are a small business, you may qualify for the first year free. So, and what this does, essentially, it'll waive not only your business registration fees, but also your, like in my example of a cafe, it'll waive your health permit application, your health license fee for the first year. If you are needing to remodel the space, it will waive any of your building permit fees from the city, including sign permit fees. So typically when you are going into a space, depending on the space, right, you've confirmed that the use permits, or that the zoning, the location permits the use. Again, by checking with the planning department, you'll want to check and make sure that that is okay. And actually, I do have a slide on zoning. So this is a place where you can also check yourself whether a location is allowed. I'm sorry, whether a particular type of business would be allowed at the given location that you're considering. There's also this other tool called Symbium Build for Business. Actually, let me go to their website. Yeah, so this is better. You can go to sfplanning.org, find my zoning. If you have a location in mind, you could plug in the address here. You kind of have to be, though, able to kind of read the zoning control tables. So you would plug in an address and it'll pull up the zoning, and it'll have these zoning control tables that essentially kind of tell you what's permitted or not permitted. So like here, for instance, this is a zoning district called NC1. The address is 218 Fillmore. And this might be a little outdated, but essentially a gym. If you were trying to open up a gym at this location, you see this P here, that means it's permitted on the, this is controlled by story. So this is first story, second story, third story. So of course a gym would not be permitted. NP means not permitted on the second or third story, but on the first story, yes. Hotel not permitted in this zoning district, and so forth. So you'll see that. That's why I say you kind of have to be able to do that. Otherwise, if you want something a little bit more easy, if you scroll down on this page, there's going to be this section that says Symbian Build for Business. This is a good tool to use as like a starting point, but I would always recommend that you confirm by checking with the planning department or checking with us that what you're seeing here is going to be accurate. So here you could search by location if you had a location in mind, or you could search by business if you kind of just want to generally know where you might be able to open up a bar. It's not letting me do this. You can, look at search by business, type in bar, or if you have a location in mind, you can click the address. Okay, here. So like bar, let's say. It's not gonna let me do it. It's a little slow. I think my internet is slow, but okay, to save time, just know that that's there. There's also a new website where you can apply for permits. So to the extent, like, let's say you find a location, you confirm the zoning, but if that had not already been a bar, maybe that space was a retail store and you're converting it into a bar, that would be considered a change of use. And typically changes of uses require a building permit to be pulled from the building department. And in this case, it would also require architectural plans because now you're putting a food facility in a space that hasn't been a food facility. So I always tell people, in order to save time and money, if you are looking to open up something, look to open in a space that was maybe already operated in the same way or same type of business. Otherwise, you will likely go through the process of having to do a change of use and requiring building permits, requiring architectural plans. And so that will just, further delay how quickly you can open up there. But with this first year free program, though, a lot of those fees will be waived, which is great right now. And that's for anybody that's registering between now and October of this year. Or actually, yeah, it started for anybody who registered between November 1st of last year and October 31st of this year. And as long as your your estimated gross receipts will be under 2 million and it's not a formula retail business, meaning it's not a chain, then you will likely be eligible for this and have a lot of your first year fees waived. So there's information about that. Let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, I do have information about ADA. So yeah, you definitely want to consider accessibility in a space that you might be looking to rent, that's going to be accessible to the public. Generally, your entrance should be accessible. So if you clearly see there's a step or the entrance is a little too narrow or something, you'll want to, what we're recommending is that you would hire somebody called a certified access specialist. It's generally an architect with a special certification in accessibility, and they would come in and do an inspection and kind of outline for you what you might need to do to remove barriers to access. Maybe sometimes that's just installing a automatic door opener or somehow removing that step. Right now, we do have a grant to help pay for that inspection if you are a business. There's also another program called the Accessible Business Entrance Program, where property owners are being required by the city to comply by submitting a checklist, which basically tells the city about their property and what tier they fall under, whether they need to make modifications. What we're finding is a lot of property owners are putting this burden on the small business tenant. And if that is you, the city has this ADA inspection that can help pay for that inspection up to $1,000 by CASP inspection to comply with the Accessible Business Entrance Program, or up to $3,000 for a full CASP. So unfortunately, a lot of our businesses are being sued for lack of compliance with the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is really a sweeping civil rights law that says that you cannot discriminate against people with disabilities, period. And so we have been trying to educate the business community about ways that they can reduce their risk of being sued. And one of the ways is to this inspection done by this CASP inspector. There's also another grant that we have open right now to help with design services. So if you are needing to make modifications and you're going to need to have plans to submit to the building department, you can apply for up to $5,000 of architectural services. The city will find you the architect to work with and have them do your plans. And then later, there's also going to be a construction grant to help you actually do the work that needs to be done. So stay tuned for that. And then this last slide, finally, are business resources. So again, a lot of technical service providers that can help you with entrepreneurship training, business planning, coaching. So you'll find a list of those here. We also have some financial resources. Main Street Launch is administering a loan for the city. So you could check those out there. And there's a few other, these are community lenders, or what we call nonprofit lenders. So ideally, if you are starting to do, can go to your lender, a bank that you might already be banking with, and try to get a small business loan from them. But what we're find oftentimes, if you are a new business, that's not going to be available for you. And so these community lenders are another option. But because they are an alternative option, their interest rate is usually a little bit higher. But we have had some programs at zero interest. So take a look at that, and then our legal resources. So I will, with that, I will go ahead and stop sharing. And I know we've gone over and hopefully take some questions. I'm happy to stay on. I can stay on, but I also don't want to keep people too long. So yeah, I'll stop there.
Thanks, Martha. That was so good. You're such a wealth of information.
There's so much information, and I know I talk fast, and I apologize, but like I said, we do try to make ourselves accessible. So feel free to follow up directly if you do want more one-on-one or have additional questions.
Great. I think there are just a couple of questions.
Okay.
Early on, someone said that they had trouble reaching someone to answer a question real time, and I think the form that she submitted was on the Treasurer and Tax Collector website. Is there a way of reaching someone in real time and just asking a question?
So if it is a question related to the Office of the Treasurer and Tax Collector, that's going to be more difficult. You could always try 311. So 311, the city's kind of customer service call center is does answer calls in real time. Depending on what your question is, they might be able to answer it right then and there, or they might need to send a message to someone in the tax office to get back to you. You can also try our office. We are limited in staff though, so oftentimes, like right now, I'm actually on my is supposed to be on answering call duty, but as you know, I'm here in this presentation. So during this time, I haven't been able to answer the calls. And so that means nobody else is answering the calls either right now. But if you leave a message, we do check that. I'll be doing that right after this, checking messages and trying to get back to people. We try to be really responsive and get back to people either same day or next day through our office. And we may be able to help you if it's a tax related question, or we might need to have you reach out to them directly. But I think also if it is a tax related question, they do have a on their website, they have get help or a help center. And my understanding is that if you submit through that link before 7, they're supposed to get back to you same day as well.
Thank you. Someone had a question. Can you renew online? And when you renew, do you have to renew both the DBA and business license?
So yes, you can renew the business registration online, and that's the one that is due every May by the last day of May. I believe the tax office is sending out notices this week about the renewal. So some businesses will receive one notice and others will receive other notices. So for instance, my understanding is that if you're a small business that reported gross receipts less than 50,000 last year and you have 0 employees, you will receive a bill that you just need to pay. However, if you are not that, you're a larger business, you will receive a notice instructing you how to go online and complete an actual renewal where you have to answer questions about what your gross receipts were, and then you'll be billed, or your fee will be based on that information that you're reporting. There's also some businesses that are exempt organizations, so like nonprofits, and provided that they are still exempt, they might not need to do anything. So they'll receive a different type of notice. But yes, the tax office, I believe just this week is starting to send out those notices. And yeah, you will either go online and complete a renewal, or you'll just need to pay a bill online. And no, it does not renew your fictitious name. Those are 2 different things with 2 different city departments. So fictitious names are done through the county clerk's office, and those are valid for 5 years. So depending on kind of where you're at what year you're at, you might still have time remaining on that, or you might need to renew soon. So you would want to check with the county clerk's office. Actually, on their website, I believe if you have a fictitious name, you can search and you'll likely find yours, and you'll be able to see the date that you filed, and then you'll know kind of roughly when it's due. And for that one, you will not be able to renew online. The fictitious name, you will need to file a brand new fictitious name statement form, and that one is done in person at City Hall or by mail to the county clerk's office.
Okay, thank you. Such a
Yeah.
thorough answer. So another question is, can we change from LLC to sole proprietorship at any time?
Yeah, my sense is that yes, you can always switch your structure. I think a tax professional might recommend that you stay in one structure for that tax year. So maybe not change mid-year, but that is something that you'll want to discuss with the tax professional. But generally, my understanding is that you probably can change at any time and convert. Mhm.
Thank you. Someone else asked, the seller's permit application asks for an SEIN. Is that the same as the EIN? They ask separately for the federal EIN.
Yeah, I believe it's different. It's one issued by the state, and I'm actually less familiar with that, to be honest with you. But yes, I believe it's a state employer number.
Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions. Well, and we're almost at time. Well, we are
Yeah.
at time actually,
I
but
know we're over time. I apologize.
it's so good, Martha. Thank you so much for covering all that information.
Of course. Yeah, no, it's been my pleasure, and I'm excited to work with you guys as you think about starting a business here. Definitely feel free to reach out. We'll send you guys all this information, and my contact is there. So feel free to reach out. Email is always the best in terms of reaching out, because like I said, usually there's one of us in the office. So there's two of us right now at the office, and we overlap only one day a week. So the other days we might be assisting clients at the counter, and so again, not able to pick up the phone or not able to help you if you were to walk in. So usually if you're trying to come in, it's best to schedule an appointment. Otherwise, email is really good. Feel free to email, and we'll reach back out as soon as we become available.
What is the email address?
So the our office main email address is SFOSB. It stands for San Francisco Office Small Business at sfgov.org.
Okay.
My email is on the presentation slides too.
Perfect. So I will be sending Martha's slides to everyone along with a link to the recording so you can review it. And again, I want to thank Martha so much. That was fantastic. And I hope you reach out to the Office of Small Business and also to the library too for all your research needs. But yes, a lot of thank yous coming in chat, Martha, for you.
Awesome. Yay. Thank you. Thank you all.
So look for that email from me. And again, I just want to thank Martha, and happy Small Business Week, everyone.
Yeah, happy Small Business Week, everyone.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, take care, of course.
Okay, bye.